All right, I want to show you a few things about the EV3 intelligent brick here you have in front of you. First thing I want to talk about is the buttons themselves. These buttons, obviously you can go up and down, right and left, but then more importantly, the center button right here is select or affirmative. If you want to go into something or you want to confirm something, that's the center button, which is select. Then over here we have the back button, which is the escape. This button also will serve as an emergency stop. If you're running a program, you want it to stop, just hit this button and it will stop for you. So that's the basics of navigation. On the screen then, you'll see 4 tabs. The first tab is your recently run programs, and those will show up there as you run them. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but there is a program there called Demo that I just ran. Next to that then is your files. This is where you'll have your projects and your programs. I recommend that you run everything from this tab. I wouldn't use the recently run programs. I would just use this tab here. Now, what you'll see on that, depending on if you're running a Chromebook or if you're running the Windows Mac app or the iPad app, you'll see different kind of files here. But regardless, they'll be in folders. The folder will be the name of the project or the program. When you open that up then, I will open this one here, you'll see underneath will be a program. If you're using the Mac or Windows app, there'll be a whole bunch of programs in a project. If you're using the Chromebook or the iPad, it'll just be the same name of the program underneath here, the same as the folder. So you can run them that way. Why I recommend that is if you update a program, a lot of times students will run it from the recently run and they'll actually run an older version of that program, not realizing that it has been updated over here. So that's what I would always recommend for you. Next one over there, you'll see tools. It kind of looks like a 3x2 brick from the top. The first thing you'll see on tools is the port view. This is the one I probably use the most. When I open up the port view, you'll see 4 tabs at the bottom and 4 tabs at the top. Those tabs correspond with the inputs in the back, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the outputs at the front of the robot, or the EV3 brick, which is A, B, C, D. As I scroll through then, using my directional control, I can see that I don't have anything on 1 or 2. When I get to port 3, I see I now have on port 3 a color reflect sensor. And you can see that here on my robot. There it is. If I put my hand underneath, you'll see that the will start to change. Okay, and right now I have it set on color reflect. If I change that, I can change it to ambient light or I can change it to color itself. So here's ambient light. Not going to be a whole lot of difference there. Let me go back to color reflect. There we go. And now we'll see as I get closer to it, my hand gets closer there, you'll see that this starts to change. It'll reflect more or reflect less depending on how close my hand is to that LED bulb that's on the bottom of the sensor. Next one over, you'll see we have the ultrasonic, which is on the front of my robot here. The ultrasonic then is going to send out a signal. I've got a distance showing up here on the screen. As I move my hand in front, I can change that distance up or down. I can also, right now it's in centimeters, if I click my center button, I can change that to inches or I can change it to listen, which would allow me to see if another robot is sending a signal with its ultrasonic sensor. I can see inches and I can move that around and get different readings. So a great way to check, get some measurements from your robot or verify that something is working. So I go on to the right. I will see now I'll jump up to the top tabs here, which is my outputs. The first one I have is the medium motor, which is in port A, and that is my arm. And you see as I move the arm, it will move in degrees and tell me how much motion I'm getting. I go over to my B port. I have a large motor, and this one is set to degrees, which is this wheel here to the side. And as I turn that, I can verify that the EV3 brick is getting that information from the motor, that the encoder on that motor is working. I can also, again, hit the center button, and I can pick from either degrees or I can pick to rotations. So I come down to rotations, and now it will read single rotations as I move that around. I have to make a full rotation before it will start, but then as I go along, every 360 degrees, I'll get another rotation. So just a great little troubleshooting tool if you're not sure if something's plugged in right, or if it's not being recognized right, or you're not sure how. You need to get a light reading from out on a field or out in your classroom. Great way to get that done. I'm use my back button here to go back to my main menu. The next one down I'll show you is motor control, another great troubleshooting tool. Under motor control, I can use these directional buttons to control a motor. Now, I only have two directions, right? I have an up and down, I have a right and left. They are two axes. That means I can only control one motor with each axis. So here I can go my A and my motor up and down, or my D motor up and down. I want to run B and C. To switch to B and C, I push this center button. See when I do that, the graphic there updates, which is really nice. And then I can run my motors. So I have my B motor over here, and if I hit the button, I can go forward. If I go down, then it will go backwards. So I can go back and forth and verify that that motor is functioning properly. Same thing here, I can use my C, which is right and left in this setup. And I can actually run them both at the same time if I hold down the up and the left or right. You can see I can run both motors and verify everything is working the way it should. Just another great little troubleshooting tool. A lot of times you have a student say, I think this motor is broke 95 times out of 100. It is not the motor. It's usually a bad program. But this makes it easy. Go in, check it out, hit the button, like, yep, no, it's working, so go check the program. All right, let's go back to the main menu again. A few more features in here you might want to check out. There's a brick programming in there where you can program right on the brick. I will say it's not really intuitive because you only got really 4 buttons to work with here, but it can be done. Since the software is free, I usually recommend people just go get the software and a device and program that way. Next one over, you'll see our settings. And under the settings here, we have the volume. So I can, if I don't like that clicking noise, I can go in and I can turn that all the way down to 0. And now it won't click anymore when I tap on the keys. I like it clicking, so I'm going to turn it back up. You notice the volume doesn't change until you hit the center button. There it goes. Next one is your sleep. This is kind of your auto shut off. So when is the robot or the EV3 intelligent brick going to shut down if nobody's been programming it or running in the programs or touching the buttons? You can set that to as small as 2 minutes to really conserve battery, or you can turn it all the way up to never, which would mean a student turns it on and he doesn't shut it off before he or she leaves. It's going to stay on forever and run your battery down. I would recommend most of the time in the classroom having it 5-10 minutes, maybe even 2 minutes, depending on the age of your students and how attentive they are to making sure these things get shut off. When you're in competition, I would run all the way up to never and just make sure that your students know that they need to be very careful and make sure they shut the robot off when they're done with it. Great way to conserve your battery. Next one I'll mention real briefly here is the Bluetooth settings. This is pretty critical for the iPad and the Chromebook app versions of the software. A few things you have to deal with. First of all, the Bluetooth can be on but not visible, which means it can't pair with anything. So if it's already paired, I believe you can turn off the visibility, and that would mean that you could continue to use the robot without anybody else pairing to it. You can also, if you hit the center button, that'll turn the Bluetooth off. Means nobody would be able to connect to it. Then this bottom set, go up again so you can read that. It says iPhone, iPad, iPod, and there's a little checkbox. Apple has a specific protocol when it comes to Bluetooth, and you need to have that selected for this to pair to one of those 3 devices. If you are using a Chromebook, you need to have that unchecked, or it won't work. So just something to keep in mind there. If you're trying to pair with a device and it's not working, check to verify you have this checked for iDevices or not checked if you're not using iOS devices. There we go. Last thing there is your brick name. You can rename the brick. You see mine is called number 11, which corresponds with the number sticker I have right here. You can rename it, just a regular old keyboard. I can type it in, backspace, all those things. I don't want to change this one, but if you have a student that renamed it something you really don't care for, you can rename it here. You also can rename it in the app or the software program if you're connected to a device. So that's probably a little bit easier than trying to use this keyboard. But if you're in a pinch, you can rename it there as well. So there's a little tour. Whenever you want to shut it off, keep hitting the back button until this little menu pops up. You'll see it says on off, international symbol for on off. It says cancel or confirm. If I go over to the checkbox, which is confirm, and hit the center button to confirm it, I powered her down. So hope that helps out a lot, and enjoy your EV3.